Modern computers got their start around the 1960s. But what if I told you that the origins of the device you're clicking or tapping on right now go back not 80 years, but 2000? A mysterious hunk of metal was dredged off the seafloor in the year 1901. And since then, it's opened the door into a mystery that defies everything we know about ancient technology. Advanced CT scans and X-ray machines revealed its secret. Concealed inside a corroded lump of metal and stone was a machine, an advanced celestial map that charted the courses of the sun, moon, and planets, not only in the present, but in the future. Perfectly calculating major astronomical events like solar and lunar eclipses, and important dates like the start of the Olympic Games. It's called the Antikythera Mechanism. What really happened to this device that kept it hidden from the world for 2 millennia? How did we discover there was a primordial computer hidden in a lump of corroded rock and metal? Why did the same event that spelled doom for this device become what saved it? Join me as we unravel all this and much more and enter the Codex Legendarium. I'm Shelby Melanson. "2,000 years ago in the 1st century BC, you're a sailor aboard a Greek merchant ship, headed towards the Roman shipping port of Ostia. You can see the coast of the island of Antikythera off in the distance, not far from Crete. That's when the storm sets in. Rain drenches you instantly. 50 or even 100-foot waves rock the ship. Your crewmates are panicking, fearing for their lives, but there's more. Hidden within the belly of the ship is more than just ordinary cargo, something far more precious than the countless crates loaded with coins, gold, glassware, jewelry, hundreds of works of art, not to mention life-size marble statues of horses and a 7-foot-tall statue of Heracles, a hero in Greek mythology. No, this is something so special that the captain told you it must be protected with your life, but he wouldn't tell you what it was. One final monster wave shoves the boat into a collision course with the rocky shores of the island. The impact rips through the ship's hull, tearing it apart. You and your crewmates are plunged into the depths. The last thing you see is the metallic shine of a strange machine as it sinks into the inky blackness. The ship, its treasures, and you land 100 feet below the waves, on a slope leading up to the island's coast. There they will sit, forgotten in a watery grave for the next 2,000 years. Fast forward to the spring of year 1900. A group of Greek divers find themselves caught in yet another storm, and they decide to take shelter on the same island that caused that crash so long ago. While they wait for this storm to pass, they dive right in, on the hunt to harvest sea sponges. But what they found was way more than they bargained for. Recovery efforts for the shipwreck spanned 2 years, thanks to bad weather and harsh diving conditions. The same treasures that had sunk during the ancient voyage were dug back up, and so was the strange bronze machine. It was roughly the size of a shoebox. It didn't look like much at first, especially compared to all that treasure, right? 2 millennia underwater had left its metal pieces caked in sand and silt, which had solidified into rock. And the salt water had corroded the copper inside the bronze metal, transforming it into a blue-green rock called atacamite. It was called the Antikythera Mechanism, named after the island that spelled both its doom and its salvation. More on that later. The problem was, no one had a clear idea then of what kind of thing it was. The speculation was that it had something to do with astronomy. Inscribed on the machine were traces of visible text, which mentioned the sun and the planet Venus. Despite that, it more or less faded from public memory for the better part of the next century. But it never vanished from the mind of one British man, physicist and science historian Derek de Solla Price, plus a small handful of others. For him, the device was a scientific obsession. He went to Athens to study it in person back in 1958 and was the first to commission an X-ray of the device. That helped him figure out the mechanism's basic layout. Soon after, he gave a presentation in Washington, D.C. that would blow the minds of historians and scientists alike. The box of gears wasn't a clock, it was a computer, which in 1958, computers were still in very primitive development. slow, massive chunks of hardware that effectively functioned like overgrown calculators. And well, this 2,000-year-old computer wasn't a computer in the same sense that, say, an abacus is. The Antikythera Mechanism wasn't performing simple mathematical calculations. This hand crank-operated box was built with the power to track the movement of heavenly bodies, meaning it connected time with the motion of the planets, the sun, and the moon. Price said the discovery was like, quote, opening a pyramid and finding an atomic bomb. In the year 2000, a researcher named Tony Freeth got involved and has been studying the mechanism ever since then. Little did any of them know they were about to uncover its hidden secret. After pestering Greek authorities for years, they finally gave Freeth permission to run the mechanism through a much more advanced 3D imaging process. Quote, "It's just like a CT scan that you might have in a hospital, but at a much, much higher resolution." He continues, "You can't put a human being into one of these machines because it would kill them instantly." He described the whole thing as an extremely difficult 3D jigsaw puzzle, but what they found underneath was unbelievable. Beneath all that rock, silt, and corrosion were a complex network of 35 fine-toothed gears, 4 dials, and a hand crank, all set inside the remains of a wooden frame. If that wasn't enough for you, it gets better. But first, if you're enjoying this episode so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for many more mysteries, histories, and science. This is when researchers started to understand the mind-boggling precision of this device, and when the timeline of its creation started raising serious eyebrows. Turning the hand crank of the mechanism would move the internal gears and chart the positions of the sun, moon, and planets. The 5 of them that we knew about at the time, that is, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Not only did it show where they were in relation to the constellations of the zodiac, but it also showed when they were, meaning it connected their movements to time, past, present, and future. To do that, the mechanism had to account for 2 things. 1, heliocentric theory, aka planets rotate around the sun, and the fact that celestial bodies have elliptical orbits. Here's why that's interesting. Most Greeks at the time believed that the Earth was at the center of the cosmos, and while a small handful did propose heliocentric models, mostly Pythagoras, they did not believe in elliptical orbits. They thought orbits were all perfect circles. And yet, the creators of this mechanism found a way to account for the moon's varying speed through the sky anyway. Here's how. And this is just one example of the insane precision of this device. 2 of the gears at the very back of the Antikythera mechanism track the moon's position. They're mounted on a larger gear, and they rotate on a different axis just slightly more than a millimeter apart. That's right, 1 millimeter. At first glance, this means the 2 gears mostly rotate at the exact same rate, but the extremely subtle difference allows for variable motion, meaning it accounts for the moon's elliptical orbit. But that's not all. The mechanism also tracks several other cycles. One of them, called the Metonic cycle, shows how every 19 years, the phases of the moon sync up with the same dates on the calendar. Another one, called the Saros cycle, comes from Babylonian-era astronomy and predicts solar and lunar eclipses over the course of a 233-month pattern. Freeth explained the mechanism includes virtually everything that was known about astronomy at the time, explaining further that it's almost unbelievable in its brilliance. Oh, and not to mention, other portions of the mechanism were used to mark other things, like the dates of the Olympic Games, and a few other athletics competitions. And including this in the device makes perfect sense, if you consider how significant these things were at the time. Freeth explains, quote, "These games were a really central part of ancient Greek culture. They used to suspend wars while the Olympic Games were on. Then, when the games finished, they would go back to fighting each other." Okay, so all of that is pretty amazing, but it also brings up a whole lot of questions. For one, if the Greeks could create this level of advanced metalworking, why is it the only example that we have of this kind of technology? Most experts say it's probably safe to assume this device was not the only one of its kind, but it was rare. Like, very rare. Likewise, they suggest there might have been simpler versions of this kind of technology out there, earlier drafts or iterations of the same technology. Basically, an effort to work up to the kind of mastery that the Antikythera Mechanism has within it. But if that's true, and there were others, where are they? Well, that very same shipwreck that doomed the mechanism to its 2,000-year stay on the ocean floor is also probably the same reason, or maybe miracle, that it survived at all. Here's why. Bronze was an extremely valuable thing 2,000 years ago. It's also a highly malleable metal, meaning it can be pretty easily reworked into other things. Because of that, recycling old bronze gadgets into new ones was a common practice at the time. And if the mechanism had arrived in Rome as scheduled, it's very possible it would have been melted down somewhere along the way. And if that had happened, it's likely it would have been lost to time and to us forever. Archaeologist Brendan Foley explained it like this, quote, "If you go into many of the archaeological museums in Europe, all of the fabulous bronze structures primarily come from shipwrecks or from sites underwater. You might make a statue of a Greek god, but once that religion goes out of fashion, you can melt the statue down and make church bells or artillery gun barrels. Because of that, it's virtually impossible to know how many of these were really made, or if there were other earlier versions. Though leftover writings from the ancient era might actually shed some light on this. More on that later on. Stay with me. One other important point on this, only about 1/3 of the Antikythera Mechanism was actually recovered. After the initial discovery, when the metal was dredged out of the ocean, it was divided into 82 separate fragments for conservation purposes. The rest of it is likely lost to the depths forever. Okay, so this mechanism works based off of basically all astronomical knowledge from the era, that is ancient Greece, plus some that wasn't fully understood yet, and managed to survive the ages thanks to a twist of fate. But how could something so advanced with such intricate metalwork even be manufactured that far back in history? It's so fantastical that it even inspired the entire premise of movies like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. While researching all of this, I found so much more that boggled my mind to the point that it wouldn't just fit in one episode. So, to answer the questions of how it was made, who actually invented it, and what its true purpose really was, tune into part 2 of this episode, which will come out 1 week after the one you're watching right now. So, in the meantime, let me leave you with this quote from Cicero as a bit of a teaser for part 2. Quote, "I am not ashamed to confess, I am ignorant of what I do not know." But what do you think? Is there more to the story of the shipwreck that sent the Antikythera Mechanism to the depths? What is its true history and legacy? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments, and seriously, stay tuned for part 2 of this episode next week, where we will dive deeper into the advanced technology behind the celestial map and the true purpose for creating it. And of course, if you enjoyed this deep dive into mysteries, myths, culture, and science, please take a second to like and share this video. And if you want to see more, subscribe. It really, really helps get the word out there. Until next time, stay curious. Thank you.